Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning. Welcome to day 2 of the Penn IIT.
A person like me who does not have a qualification can only do one thing, can at least not pretend to be as boring as life really is. So the only thing that I knew how to do was, I've always said this, I said that advertising is a profession where, you just have some vague ideas and somebody comes with lots of suitcases of money and say, please give me that idea, please give me that idea. I found it a very interesting profession. All I needed to do was to kind of take my fantasy or some kind of trip that I had and find some logic for their product, and it would kind of, work. So I said it's a very cool profession. So I think advertising is a great profession for people who don't have any qualifications, so that's why I'm there. Filmmaking also is like that in a lot of ways, because you watch a lot of films, you learn filmmaking. So it's when you used to get cursed for going to a film before, and it was thought of as not a very good thing to do, and you actually make a profession of it, there's no bigger joy. A vice becomes a profession, so it's fabulous again. So I think I've been lucky in the sense that I've kind of thoroughly enjoyed not being qualified in doing anything. So I have had great fun. So what Pause. It's most mothers. So we just needed to give a clue to parents. How do you tell today's people to get married? Don't tell them about life and things like that. Just take them to a shop. They'll be fine.
And to just get the ball rolling on the
Sure.
topic of ideas, there was a question that came from the audience yesterday. Do you ever run out of ideas? What is your inspiration if you do run out of ideas?
I think you run out of ideas every day. I just think if anybody can get ideas in the world, but you're a professional if you're forced to get an idea. Say you're like an idea slot machine. If they put a coin, you're supposed to get an idea. That's when you become a professional. And the trick to do that is not anything. You're not a genius, and nobody is a genius, and nobody knows how and where an idea comes. It's to be a little patient and clear your head so that the idea drops into your head and not into somebody else's. So the trick is kind of just to, clean up your head so that when it drops in, so that it decides to drop into your head, because it finds a lot of room there, a lot of space, and it drops in there and not anybody else's. I don't know any other way. And I think you run out of ideas every day. You just be patient.
And is there a particular lever, soap, or shampoo that clears the head pretty well?
Actually, it's a PNG shampoo, so I don't want to talk about it.
Anyone from the audience? Is there a mic going around?
There is.
Excellent.
Hi, thank you very much for all the heads up about advertising. Just needed to know, how much research do you people do when you do the brand positioning, or does it come from the client itself when they, commission you for a particular advertising?
They do too much research. In fact, they learn so much about the consumer that they forget about what is the new thing that he or she wants to hear. So most of the time, what happens is we end up telling them what they already know or what they've already told you, so it's no longer interesting when you tell them the same thing. So I think research is very important to understand where the consumer is, what is the kind of life that he or she is leading, and what's the relevance the brand plays in his life, and what does he want for her life. But I think the trick in advertising is to forget it and pitch the brand in a space where he or she can clutch onto the brand for giving them a new idea or a new way of life or a new catchphrase or a new something. Something the person needs to take from the brand to add to his life. Brands can't keep borrowing from people's lives. That becomes boring. So it's necessary to understand people. I mean, we are all people, so we don't really need to go out and understand consumers. We're not some aliens. But just in case some people have forgotten who they are and who they were, it's necessary maybe to understand various people, but it's necessary only to make sure you don't do that.
Thank
Another
you very
question?
much.
Yep, I can see your hand there.
That was very interesting, whatever we heard so far, and particularly your ad on Tanishq and the way you were, that idea about getting a girl to agree to marriage. But I would like you to work on something that would make young men also think about marriage a little seriously. Nowadays, that is more difficult than asking young girls to agree to marriage. So maybe that's an idea I'd like to put into your head for your next ad.
It will come out in a couple of weeks. It's coming out in a couple of weeks about not so much the young men want to get married, because that I think it's like asking people to kind of voluntarily commit suicide. I don't want people to do that. But I just would like young men to take women to jewelry shops more often. That's even a more dangerous task than getting married, trust me.
Yeah, but that's
So
also another form of suicide.
that's another form of suicide. That's coming soon. There's a great motivation for young men to take young women to jewelry shops. Oh, well, I mean, every man is young at heart, whatever, regardless, it doesn't matter. Nobody thinks he or she is old. My wife has tried her best to tell me that I'm old and I've got to start behaving that way, but she just is hitting a blind spot. I mean, she doesn't reach me.
So, in the interest of time, maybe I'll ask you a couple of quick fire questions just to bring the
Sure.
session to a close, which I got from the audience before. A quick insight about Amitabh Bachchan after you directed him in Chini Kam and Pa.
Fabulous human being, the ultimate actor.
Who's the next US president?
The next, Obama.
What do you like? What do you like more, ads or movies?
What do I like about ads and movies?
What do you like more, making ads or making movies?
They're both the same thing. I mean, one's a longer ad than the other.
If you're stuck in an elevator with a Bollywood actor or actress for an hour, who would that be and why?
Bollywood actor and actress.
Or actress. If you were to be stuck in an elevator with a Bollywood actor or actress for an hour, who would that be?
I don't
and
need
why?
an hour, but it'd be just 5 minutes and I wouldn't know what to say.
And who would
So
it
it could
be?
be anybody, and I wouldn't know what to say.
And the last question to bring the session to a close, if you had to cast an IITian in your next movie as a character, what would you look for?
If he's got a bit of Rajinikanth in him,
I think we
or
have,
her would be better.
I think we have a few candidates in the audience who applied for that task, and by the time you come out from the stage, they might
Singapore's
put on a few stunts.
Non-smoking country, sad.
Balki, it was lovely to have you
Pleasure.
here. It was personally, it was fantastic, and I think for the people here as well, I think it's been a great way to greet a Saturday morning and
Thank
get
you.
to know you a bit more intimately.
Thank you.
Thanks, Balki.
Thank you.
Balki and Balaji, may you please invite to remain on stage for a brief moment, as I'd like to invite Superior to please join us to felicitate R. Balakrishnan, or Balki for short, with a token of our appreciation. Balki, and I say this on behalf of everyone, this is too short a discussion. As far as I see, it needs to be at least 3 hours long minimum. Do you guys agree? Balki, we'll bring him back here again. First class, 5-star, very, very soon. Give him another big round of applause, please. And Balaji as well. Pressured for time, but we have to move on. We'd just like you to know that coming up shortly, in actually 60 seconds from now, we anticipate the arrival of our patron and the former President of the Republic of Singapore, Mr. S.R. Nathan, who will be joining us here to take his seat, and also we'll be sharing excerpts on an unexpected journey, a path to presidency, I'm sure. Can I see a show of hands for those of us who have the book here in hand? The good news is, if it's not been signed, we will make arrangements for a table to be on stage at this juncture, and for Mr. Nathan to sit comfortably and also say hello to you and autograph the book for you. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome our patron for the Pan IIT APAC 2012 and the former President of the Republic of Singapore, Mr. S.R. Nathan. Join me in giving him a big warm welcome, please. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great privilege and pleasure to invite our patron and the former President of the Republic of Singapore, Mr. S.R. Nathan, to say a few words before he facilitates presenting tokens of appreciation to our key guests. Join me in giving him another big warm welcome, please.
Well, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Thank you all for coming together to hear from me about my book. Amrit insisted that I should use the occasion to let you all know about this book that I've written. It's about my lifetime, from childhood to the presidency. And what can I say about it? I've said it, warts and all. I've tried to be as open as possible, and I've had to be a little cautious when dealing with our bilateral relations with our neighbors. Notwithstanding that caveat, I've tried to be quite open about my life experiences. What possible message can one draw from reading my book? I think there are a few. There were different phases that I went through. In my childhood and during the war years, I learned many lessons. My story reveals the capacity we all have to survive adversity. It's also about the good we sometimes find in unexpected quarters. I also learned about the obligation to reach out to others and help others. And I found the importance to have some kind of moral compass in your life. In terms of education, I saw how through self-studies I found the abilities I possessed to continue my learning throughout my career. As you would read, that every job I held was without a brief, and I had to develop my own brief in the process. Circumstances change, and they present new opportunities, and with education, we can exploit them. And thirdly, not to give up. However lowly a hand has been delivered to you, I think we can deal with it better. I had a trade union experience in the formative years of our trade union movement. I found that life can be complex and challenging, and whatever work we do, this happens to be the case. I also learned during that time not to be a pawn in someone else's political maneuvering, and not to expect their exhortations to be sincere. In diplomacy, I realized that knowledge of the world is only built with the aid of time and experience. This applies equally to personal as well as institutional experiences. And also the contributions that individuals can make in the national interest is perceived during that career. Whether one is a civil servant, one is a diplomat, or an entrepreneur, one can be called to display both moral and physical courage in unexpected situations in one's life. I also spent time in the media for 6 years. I was a rookie, sent to be in charge of the press. I learned that values such as journalistic freedom are real, but not unconditional. They need to be looked at in the context of the broader public interest. The tussle between freedom of expression and the legitimate concerns of authority is never ending, and the boundaries will always be subject to redefinition from time to time. Generally, reading through the book, you'll realize that Singapore's path upwards to be among the top of the community of nations was often a rocky path. It called for, in our leaders, intelligence, hard work, and persistence to set up a nation that became independent overnight without any experiences. We all emerged in on-the-spot problem solving and met danger that was hovering over Singapore during those turbulent times. The complexities of the times required dedicated, persistent men in the team seeing things from very different angles each time. The accolade for Singapore's stunning transformation rests with our first generation leaders who, with exceptional skill, figured out piece by piece how each problem had to be overcome and to make opportunity out of our adversity. I will end on that note, and I hope you will enjoy reading my book.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nathan. Sir, may we please invite you to remain on stage for a brief moment to felicitate some of our key guests. And for some of us individuals who have not read the book yet, may I add that it's one of the best autobiographies that I personally have read myself. Totally enjoyed it. I'm also happy to have been the MC selected to actually launch the autobiography of Mr. Nathan. Can we give him another big round of applause, please? At this juncture is always our way of saying thank you to our key guests, and the felicitation begins with some of our key guests and also our technical speakers who joins us for this session later. May we firstly have Mr. Birji Baga to join us on stage to receive his copy of Mr. Nathan's autobiography and also a painting from us. Can we give Mr. Baga a big warm welcome, please? Thank you very much. But you have to do one smiling and look in the camera. Thank you very much. Mr. Srinath Keshavan. Can we give him a big warm welcome as well, please? Thank you very much. Mr. Deepa Priya Das Gupta. Mr. Anand Kumar. And here is Mr. Kumar. Good morning, sir. Our key guest that we felicitate at this juncture, before we felicitate our technical track speakers in a short while from now. Mr. Debotosh Lod. Can we give him a big warm welcome as well, please? May we also have Ms. Kavita Chowdhury from CII to please join us on stage, please. Can we give Kavita a big warm welcome? Good morning, Kavita. Nice seeing you again. We're just checking for Mr. Vijay Iyengar, who is in the ballroom with us. And from AgroCrop, Vijay Iyengar, can we give him a big warm welcome, please? He also will be chairing the panel discussion with Deputy Prime Minister Tharman Shanmugaratnam a bit later today. Professor Kurt Rudrich, who will be joining us for his technical presentation shortly afterwards. Guten Tag, Herr Professor. Can we give him a big warm welcome, please? Mr. Shekhar Mitra. Mr. Ananta Krishnan, TCS for CTO. Good morning, sir. And we'd just like to remind you that happening very, very shortly, our patron and former President of the Republic of Singapore, Mr. S.R. Nathan, will be autographing your books for his autobiography. If you have it with you, please stand by. We might need you to form a queue very shortly on stage left, your right if you're facing me, to join him on stage to receive his autograph. May we please invite Sonal Kapoor to join us on stage, please. Can we give Sonal a big warm welcome? Morning, Sonal. The picture depicting Amrit, it's actually created by Sonal and her team. Very nicely. Can we give her another big round of applause, please? All for a very good cause. We're happy to participate as well. And last but not the least, Alok Panika. Can we give Alok a big warm welcome as well? Alok, good morning. Our final recipient of the felicitation happening on stage. And in a short while from now, we'll be bringing up the IBM table and chairs so Mr. Nathan could sit comfortably. And we'll begin with the or the grant process. Can we give our key guests and our tech speakers a big round of applause, please? Thank you very, very much. Saying that is once again an opportunity for us to begin, as time is of the essence. And it gives me great pleasure to invite our Science and Technology track, Keynote Session 2, Singapore Biomedical Sciences and A-Star Success Story, which is brought to you by Professor Tan Chor Chuan, who is the President of the National University of Singapore, NUS for short, since December 2008. Professor Tan is also the Professor of Medicine at the National University of Singapore and Senior Consultant at the Division of Nephrology, Department of Medicine, National University Hospital, or NUH for short. Currently, he also serves as the Deputy Chairman of Singapore's Agency for Science, Technology and Research, or A-STAR for short, and the Senior Advisor to the Governing Board of the Duke NUS Graduate Medical School. It gives me great pleasure to invite our Science and Technology track keynote speaker. Please welcome Professor Tan Chor Chuan, please. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, and it's such a pleasure and honor for me to be able to make this presentation to such a distinguished audience. Well, this afternoon I'm going to talk about the development of the biomedical sciences R&D in Singapore. And I think this will be a topic of interest to many of you because I know amongst IITs that I've spoken to, many are moving, ramping up their participation in BMS research or bioengineering research. But the main theme of my talk today is about how we actually built a biomedical science R&D effort more or less from scratch. This is an engineered effort to build up a BMS R&D effort. And this effort is actually quite recent. It's only really in the year 2000 when Singapore made a substantial investment into developing R&D. And just to give you a sense of how nascent this program is, if you look in the year 2000, you can see that we were coming from a base, but not a very, very high base. For example, I've put together some data on the intellectual capital at that time in 2000, about 1,500 papers. I put an arbitrary limit of papers with impact factor more than 5, about 220, and citations maybe 35,000. And over the last, over a 10-year period in 2010, you can see very substantial increases that reflect the growing intellectual capital in this area in Singapore. If you looked in the year 2000, if you came to visit Singapore, we had, of course, our universities, but at that time, we only had one research institute, the Institute of Molecular and Cell Biology, which is based out of NUS. But if you went to visit Biopolis today, as some of you might have, in 2011, we have 8 buildings with 4 million square feet of research space. These research space cater to the intramural research programs of the Biomedical Research Council of A-STAR, but they also provide laboratories for corporate labs and shared services, which have been very important to support research both in the public and private sector. If you looked at economic contribution in the year 2000, we have a long history of manufacturing in about pharmaceuticals, but you can see that in the year 2000, the contribution to our economy was relatively modest, but by the year 2011, the biomedical science sector contributes roughly 5% to our GDP and something in the region of 16,000 jobs. So quite significant acceleration in the economic contribution over a 10-year period. And so, in order to boost the involvement with industry, we've created an industry alignment fund, $600 million, which actually incentivizes the Biomedical Research Council, research institutes to work with clinical researchers and also with private companies to stimulate the R&D in Singapore. In order to fund the counterparties, the doctors, clinical researchers, universities, to collaborate with A-star researchers, we also created a separate 600 million collaborative fund, which supports a number of programs which brings together the best researchers in Singapore, spanning in projects that span basic research through to clinical application. And finally, we've also created a number of units within A-star that will help take early discoveries, characterize them, test their toxicity, do proof of concept in man, and try to bring them to a stage which is closer to commercialization. Now, this has become more important more recently because the pharma companies are becoming much more risk adverse, venture capital is becoming much more risk adverse, and therefore there are far fewer players who are prepared now to fund risky early phase drug development. Everybody wants to acquire assets which are safer and much later, and therefore government has to step in with this. So I'd like to end by saying that all these efforts are very nascent. We think our results are promising so far, but we still have a long way to go to realize our ambition, which is really to become an international biomedical sciences hub which advances human health while creating economic value, and to do this through excellence in research and development and also excellence in manufacturing and healthcare delivery. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Professor Tan. Interesting presentation. Before we begin with our technology track, which is once again on schedule with our three distinguished speakers, it has been brought to my attention that some of our guests who were scheduled for the facilitation segment have arrived here. And we're also glad to tell you that our patron and former President of the Republic of Singapore, Mr. S.R. Nathan, has graciously stayed back to offer once again his personal thanks and appreciation to all our tech speakers. So may we please once again invite our patron and former President for the Republic of Singapore, Mr. S.R. Nathan, to grace the stage once again to facilitate and present tokens of appreciation to our tech speakers. Can we give Mr. Nathan a big warm welcome, please? And can we have the head of the steering committee on the environment please join Mr. Nathan? And may we call upon the 7 distinguished speakers that we have, starting firstly with our local speaker, Professor Tan George Wan, please. Professor Tan. Mr. Nathan will now facilitate Professor Tan George Wan. Professor Tan, thank you so much for taking time for your busy schedule. We really appreciate it. Can we give him a big round of applause, please? Thank you, Professor Tan. We hope to see you very soon once again. May we please invite the moderator for yesterday's session, Mr. Arjun Malhotra, please. Can we give Arjun a big warm welcome? Thank you very much, Mr. Malhotra. May we please invite Mr. Raj Srivastava to the stage, please. I guess he will be joining us very shortly. May we move on to Mr. P.D. Rai, please, who's also joined by Mr. Raj. Mr. Pradeep Gupta, and there he is. Can we give him a big round of applause, please? Our text speakers will receive once again the lovely painting and also the autobiography by Mr. Nathan, The Unexpected Journey of Path to Presidency. Next up, Mr. Heyman Kanakia, please. Thank you so much, Mr. Heyman Kanakia. And finally, Mr. Pradipto Malik, who will be here shortly. I do believe he's having, is he here? There he is. Can we give him a big warm round of applause, please? Sorry, Pedro, you ran from the side of the room. May we give all our speakers once again a big round of applause as we thank our patron and the former President of the Republic of Singapore, Ms. Esther Nathan, who has graciously stayed back once again to thank and to show his appreciation to everyone. Can we give him a big round of applause, please? Thank you very much, Mr. Nathan. We hope to see you soon, sir. As we prepare for the individual technology track, which will be conducted live on stage, let me find a disparity by just telling you a bit more about, you can find out what your name means at the Remit to India booth, which is located outside in the foyer. And this also comes with a personalized bookmark as well. Well, to find out what your name actually means, and to also receive a personal bookmark, please proceed to the Remit to India booth located outside in the foyer. I guess the translation for my name will be to talk non-stop. So I guess hopefully there will change. Well, we'll begin now with the technology track as promised, and our first speaker is Professor Kurt Woodridge. Professor Woodridge is a Nobel laureate and is currently in the Cecil H. and Ida M. Green Professor of Structural Biology at the Scripps Research Institute in La Jolla, California, USA. He's also a member of the USA Science and Engineering Festivals Advisory Board and is now in charge in one of the first superconducting NMR spectrometer at Bell Labs, which was established in the nuclear Overhauser effect as a convenient way of measuring distances with protein. Please join me in welcoming my first speaker for the technology track, Professor Kurt Woodridge, please. Thank you very much.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great privilege to be here and to have been included, I feel, as a visitor in your circle. When I received the invitation from Amrit Barman and Supriyo Sirkar, I asked myself, why me? Why should I be added to this program? What are my possible connections with IITs, with India, and with Singapore? So I went into my CV last night and checked whether there was enough material. And I'm just citing a few items here to give you the feeling that I have indeed been related to much of the business that you are involved with. Well, I found in my CV that